Hello, thank you everyone for tuning in. This is our podcast, Corporate Burnouts. Here, we're just going to be talking about life as it is, life for us in the corporate world, life for us going through it, and maybe even escaping that reality. It's going to be kind of treacherous for us to talk about without it sounding too ranty, but there are some real things in this world that we want to address for ourselves just so we can hold on to it. So without further ado, my name is Joshua, and here I'm 23 years old. I work a corporate job, great corporate benefits, great movement upwards. However, it doesn't seem to align with what I want to do in this world. So I do want to talk about that with my good friend.
Hello, my name is Ethan. I'm 23 years old as well, and I do also work a corporate job.
Yeah, and this world is hard to navigate. It's something that we tend to hold on to because the workforce definitely consumes 40 hours, 45 hours, 50 hours. Even after that, it consumes into our free time. So we're just trying to see some practical ways on how we are living in this world that can either promote better growth in this world or even as an individual, which I think is significantly more important than just promoting your career, just promoting what you do in your life. So to start, yes, my corporate job, it's a call center job, and that doesn't appeal to everyone. And certainly, as I've highlighted in my time with all my friends and family, it's paying the bills very much so. But what does that look like for me? It's certainly something that boxes me in. It's certainly something that gives me a lot of struggle to be like, this is my free time. How am I going to maximize it? Because at the end of it, I got to go back in, clock right back in at 9. So it's really hard. It's really hard for me to see where I want to take my life because I can't really see the autonomy. I can't really see the fruit of growth in this job. So with this podcast, I do want to see some practical ways to grow outside the workforce or even inside the workforce. So in detail, what it looks like for me, like I said, clock in at 9, I work a 3-hour shift, take my lunch, work another 7 hours. So I'm working 10 hours a day, 4 times a week, and then I have 3 days off in a row. And for me, that has brought a lot of free time in those 3 days off. But something that I've shared with Ethan multiple times that I would like to show for you guys is that my life is just work. And in my work, I don't feel fulfillment. And it's a job where I can talk to a lot of people. I can reach a lot of people. However, why is it that I always feel drained or felt left so empty at the end of each day? I know that's something that you experience in your corporate job, which we love to hear a little bit more about, but as social beings, why is it the social activities pulling us closer and closer to our burnout point?
For sure. And I work more in the retail setting. I'm a retail salesman for a large company in the United States. As a lot of you know, retail comes with long hours, sporadic long hours. You never know when you're going to get scheduled. You'll never know if you get called in. It does drain you pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, you deal with everybody. You've got to learn how to deal with and push forward and work with your managers, your customers, your other employees. It gets to be a lot. As you were saying earlier, the work-life balance. I work about 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, on top of 1 hour lunch breaks every day. So about 45 hours I'm at work, minimum. Usually
Sure.
ends up being about 47. A little bit of overtime. On top of that, the commute, driving around. So he's spending a good chunk of my week at work.
Right.
And I have pets. I have family. I have friends. And I'd like to end up spending more time with them. I think that's what corporate life doesn't bring you is enough time for family and friends for sure.
Sure.
That's my experience right now with corporate life.
And I think that is a shared experience for a lot of people. It's hard to enjoy the work you do, especially if it's not work you want to do, which I think brings us into that burnout point. And it's weird because I have seen it in myself that, yes, I think I can work a corporate job. I can have good free time. And that's backed with a lot of communications with friends and family outside of work, a lot of activities and social events where I can talk about whatever makes me happy, what I'm passionate about, things like riffing off of each other's statements, business ideas, ventures, aspirations. That feels really good when we're in those free time moments. Mm-hmm. And holding the work-life balance very much feels stagnant for me at this point. Stagnant only because it's hard to see the future in this corporate world because it's so competitive. And in this competitiveness, I'm not one to back down from a challenge at all. I love to see myself grow. I love to promote, okay, what do I got to do to get to the top? And getting to the top is feeling less and less appealing to me than it had when I first started. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to see that I'm only enjoying the job if I have something outside of my job to hold on to. And this is a passion project for sure. I think it is routing myself to a better human person, mentally, physically as well, because, working out, reading, journaling, things like that tend to strengthen my mind, my spirit, so on and such, so that when I do return to the work, I feel like I've earned my rest. I've earned my time off.
What I want to say is I feel like this is not necessarily just a passion project for us, because it is, but it's a passion for how we feel other people stuck in corporate America feel as well. Like the audience, you guys especially, want to tell you how we get through. If you're having a hard time at work, we want to help you push through. We want to help you find what you want to do in your dreams,
Right. And a piece of advice I've gotten so many years ago from someone who was involved in the corporate chain and has pretty much made it to the top of the ladder. He had told me in a very clear and concise way, you do not know what the future holds. That's okay. But what you do know is the first step in front of you. And taking the first step can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but it's the ability to take action. And even if it's action that you get a lot of steam from and you can roll with, okay, yeah, this is it, I'm going, and then it fades away, that's where it's make or break for a lot of people in passion and in the world of changing your career and occupation into or from your hobby. And I think there's a lot of different things we would want to kind of reevaluate, almost in an objective sense, because I believe we can take a lot of skills that we're learning here in this passion project and apply it to the corporate world, or even apply it into just a full-blown occupation. It's certainly not easy. There's risk involved. There's a lot of finances involved. And there's not a lot of support in the way you would need it. Because sure, you can have a lot of friends say, go for it. Oh, I'll support you. But at the end of the day, how are you supporting yourself is the big one. Because burnout does not come from necessarily pressure from other people. It's really the internal pressure that you set on yourself. And I want to talk about the pressure a little bit, because that pressure is something that I have noticed actually does drive growth for yourself. I've shared this with a lot of teachers. I've shared this with a lot of mentors, coworkers, that I procrastinate a deadline. And that's something we can all relate to. And procrastination, not good. It's not good. Correct. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not good. Only because things that should be done ought to be done, and they should not be delayed for comfort in a given situation. Now, a lot of people do tend to procrastinate, and I've noticed this in a little bit of self-reflection, that procrastination has a place for us because we know we can still get it done in those last 30 minutes to an hour. Why can't we use procrastination as a tool then to kind of self-impose that stress? Because pressure makes diamonds, sure. Pushing yourself in that discipline, that motivation is not easy. That path is hard, but if you can reevaluate what you want, which is not easy to find out in a day, that takes time. It takes new experiences, new environments, new people for you to realize, oh, that's something I want to hold and something I want to grow with. And it's something I like to share, the 2-minute challenge. It's doing something or anything that you would want to do just for 2 minutes. It's not even every day. You just have to do it 2 minutes once a week. So, for example, I'm now regularly going back to the gym, and I'm hitting the gym. I'm going hard. I didn't start working out hour and a half every day, 5 times a week. I literally put my shoes on and went for a walk around the block. Took me about 2 to 5 minutes to get all the way around. And I did that about once a week. And eventually, I was able to do it for 20 minutes. And then eventually, I was able to do it for an hour. And then eventually, I was able to make it to the gym, lift some heavy weights for about 45 minutes, and call that a day. Almost daily. I do it about 3 to 4 times a week, depending on what my schedule looks like. So the 2-minute challenge in application is not to create instant gratification to what you're doing, but instead building the habit, which habits create a man, the habits used to set yourself up for any kind of challenge, any kind of mental task, physical task.
Well, I mean, with all that being said, Josh, where would you see yourself in the next couple of years?
That's a good question, because in the next couple of years, I do want to see myself as a different person.
Do you want to still see yourself in the corporate world? Do you want to have ventured out?
Yes and no. I think knowing opportunities and when and why you accept them is very smart. In the corporate world, I believe I can have a lot of growth, which would mean I would need to develop a passion for the work I do. And in the call center world, there is a lot of collaborative work that you can do. And I would love to enter that space, but it does take grinding the time, refining the skills. In 2 years, what I would want to see is a skill set that is unique to me, that is perfected by me. Something that I can bring to the table and no one would want to leave off the table. It's like, oh, we want that skill, we want that. It's the idea of crafting rare skills. Skills that, something this podcast is teaching me as well, video production and editing, curating my voice. The idea that I can speak about something intelligently, speak about something in confidence and with passion. It's very unique to have skills that people would want. And yes, talent is a real thing in this world, but skills is something that I would highly value over talent, because skills portray hard work, of course your work ethic, and just a little bit of how you would do something, which some people may value higher than you would discount yourself for.
For sure.
In all of this, Ethan, in your corporate life, how are you going to grow? How are you going to grow within your workplace? And how are you going to grow as an individual? Balancing work-life balance.
Well, ideally, in the next couple of years, I would be outside of the corporate world.
Okay.
The corporate world, as soon as I entered it, became very draining very quickly. If I do stay in the corporate world, I'd like to see myself move up to more of a manager role, to be able to change some things that I don't necessarily like about how things are run. What really ticks me is when things just don't work correctly, and there's a simple solution.
Right.
But in the corporate world, as I'm sure all of us here understood, the simple solutions get shushed away. We don't fix them.
Right, because it makes too much sense.
It makes too much sense, of course. I would like to, if I stuck around in the corporate environment, move up so I could fix the issue. Now, with that being said, I would like to do some more passion projects, do what I love to do, find a better work-life balance, because I've realized I'm not making great money now, but I'm making a little bit more than I've made in the past. But the paycheck does not fix the issues of never seeing your friends, never seeing your family, and feeling burnt out at the end of the day.
Right.
I would like to, I would just like to move on from the corporate world, or make it a better place for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a real idea that you pour so much into your work and leave empty. And how do you have to refill yourself back up?
See, and in my case, I'm pretty new at my job. Right now, out of a district of 210 people, I'm top 10 salesman.
Right on.
I guess so. I don't feel rewarded for it. I'm making
Right.
the same as everyone else is making. This competition that we had that kept track of all this, the top five gets recognition. The top 10, you maybe get a pat on the back. It's a good job.
Sure.
You see how much money you're bringing in a company. They go around and they mistreat you a little bit.
Sure.
I unfortunately fell ill and had to miss a week during this competition and everything. And my company had just stopped paying for certain sickness. I'm sure we all know. It's been around for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I had to use the last of my vacation time and sick time. I had to use everything that I had just so I could get the paycheck to pay my bills that month. Nobody ever said, "Oh, I'm sorry," or anything like that. They just said,
Right.
"Well, you're out of time now." So I had to go another 2.5 months without any vacation time or sick time or anything.
Right.
It gets pretty burnt out. Got pretty burnt out after that. And then of course my numbers that 1 month suffered because I'm a salesman, retail salesman, and I never heard the end of it. Kept hearing, "Hey, you got to catch up. You got to keep doing better." And then I show them the numbers of the past couple months and saying, "Hey, look, I'm still doing better than everyone at the store. I'm doing better than almost everybody in the district." But it didn't matter because just that 1 month where I happened to be sick and had to use all of my vacation and personal time, we were just, corporate number chasing. That's all it was. It makes me angry. Doesn't make me happy. At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Sure. It really is, and I think there's a healthier way to kind of explore it is what it is, because yes, I think it is funny to just hear it is what it is, and
it is what it is.
You kind of just do accept it. And something I've been holding on to is that everything about who you are comes from everything that you once had to go through, everything you once were. Trials, tribulations, mistakes, failures all create who you are today. And challenges that you are faced with, it is hard to prepare, but I think there is a healthy way to prepare. You can't really control what management's going to say. Hey, metrics don't look good. You need to do XYZ, because if you don't, it impacts XYZ. And then all of a sudden you're placed under the stress that your performance is more important than your physical well-being, especially in the sense of catching an illness. And it's hard because recognition is something that people need in very different outlets. Sometimes it's just yourself having to recognize what skills you have, what you bring to the table. And without recognition within your own self, you do lose the ability to grow. Because if you can't see that you are changing, you will always feel that you aren't. So it's a very real thing to accept. Yes, that's what happened. Yes, I was able to accomplish. Yes, I fell short. And it's a healthier way to think about it. But certainly within the corporate world, that is very real. It's a real hard struggle to be competitive and be management's pet. Like, oh, yay, they love me.
I will say, on a side note to all of that, my management at my store, great management, they actually were fighting for me that month, because it's not them that were getting on me. It was, it's the higher ups that get on them to get onto me. It's the,
It's
the
that trickle
faceless
effect. Yeah.
the faceless corporations that you just,
The suits.
the suits, man, that they were getting on them, they were getting on me. I mean, just their job. They're doing their job
Right.
like I'm doing my job. They
Right.
fought for me. They really did.
Sure.
They were trying to get an exception for me, but it is what it is.
It is
I
what
had
it is.
to continue moving forward.
Right. And I think binding yourself to those kinds of philosophies of like, you just got to accept it so you can move from it. And the decision for us to kind of route a lot of our intellectual thoughts on our previous situations into this podcast is the idea that we're not any different than anyone else. We're not doing anything special than everyone else. But life...
We put our pants on one leg at a time.
we do put our pants on one leg at a time. We do things very much how everyone else does things. We traverse a lot of different problems, navigate the world in unconventional or conventional ways. We've tried it so many different ways, and we still feel this way. So we're trying to channel what is another area we can grow in so that we can feel rewarded within our own self-recognition, or even seeing it blossom into that, oh, my passion became my job, and now I really can just pour into my job and get the reward I need, get the life I want to live. And like with social media, you see people, they live their lives, they travel, this and that, and it's definitely only half the picture, because most of those people either had to work their butts off to get where they need to be, or they, were gifted $1 million. It's just one of those things.
And their life isn't as glamorous as it always seems,
Right.
You're seeing the 1%, like when they're taking the pictures, wanting to show you the best life,
Yeah.
They don't show you getting stuck in the airport,
100 photos were taken, only 2 were posted.
Losing their luggage,
Right.
They don't show you the picture where their hair's curled up a little bit in the wrong spot.
Right. Right. I've been on a social media deficit, so I've limited it only to Facebook because that's where my family is, and that's the only way I can kind of catch up on them and talk with them. But pretty much all social medias, I've kind of ripped them out, just because focusing on what I'm consuming is definitely changing what I would want for my life. Because I'm not being influenced by the idea that, oh, I need to hit the top. Oh, I need to, travel so that I can get more likes. I need to create the false idea. I do want my life to be authentic to what I want. I think my personality speaks a lot about wanting to create and share that for the people who want it, not for the people in this fantasy world that is social media would want. Another thing I've been doing, which I think we both do, and it's tough in this world, but we set limits on ourselves. The idea that this is really tough. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to give up. And that's not what we're doing with this podcast. We're not saying we're both quitting our corporate jobs because we're burnt out. I think the idea that we do want to give every bit that we can to maximize our opportunities, to try this passion project, and if it fails, it fails. But the idea is that we are going outside of our comfort, and that takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of balls to do that, because it's hard. It's hard to do something that is unique for what you need.
Well, Josh, I want to ask you this: what makes you happy at work? What do you like?
It's a tough question, solely because very rarely I take calls pretty much back to back, and I answer a lot of account issues, finance issues, sometimes sales. I do love the very small moment in between the mumbo jumbo corporate script that I don't have to read, but you kind of play around with it so you can kind of curate the call to go in a certain direction. But I love the part where we small talk and I get to know people. The idea that it feels like I'm networking, like it's a new experience, someone who's in a different set of shoes that has the same problems as me. And it's really good to be encouraging to those people, because finances is a hard thing for a lot of people who didn't grow up with it. And I can say that for myself, that finances is really hard if you don't know what you're doing. And it's okay. I think the grand majority of the world doesn't know what they're doing. So it's my favorite part about my job is actually being able to talk to people. But within the corporate metrics, I have very specific things I need to hit, very specific things I need to talk about, very specific things I would have to sell or pitch to people. And it's hard to, for me, sell something that I know people would get financially burdened from. I would rather sell something that I know people can really attach to and really change their lives and kind of flip the switch in their lives and start heading all the way up to the top where they would want to be. And there's not really a lot of products like that in this world, I'm not selling a Bible or anything. Yeah. I know some people would love to attach themselves to, spirituality and things like that, but that's what I love. I love that. And then the very small sense, I love being able to collaborate with my team, speaking with my management team. I love talking with them because they also bring shared perspectives that we have in the work responsibilities. And it feels good to get to know people. That's my favorite thing, is getting to know people.
I very much agree with that. Since I'm in the retail sense, I talk to people face to face. It's a bit easier to chat with them, get to know them a little bit, especially if they're wearing your favorite team's hoodie.
Sure.
Pretty easy topic right there.
Right.
You can chat them up. Learn some new things here and there. That would be my favorite part. Is definitely one, the coworkers. you never get through a day unless you got a coworker that you like,
Yeah.
or else it's rough on top of rough. Obviously, there's frustrating customers, per usual, retail.
Right.
But every once in a while you get a really cool customer. You're hitting it off, you're chatting, and yeah, you are doing a lot more networking. I feel like I have some of their numbers. I probably could text them right now and just get something going. But that is the nice part about seeing so many people day to day is the networking aspect of it.
Right.
And you show them you work well in this environment. They might come after you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's really cool about both of our jobs is that the thing that we're both highlighting is not the job itself. It's the skill of interpersonal communication. It's the skill of networking. It's the skill of, in a way, sales, and transitioning that into something that we would then hold with passion. Like, okay, so we're both good at talking, and we're both good at talking with new faces and introducing new ideas, or listening is a big one, listening to new perspectives. I think what we all tend to do is attribute your value to what you bring to your company. And that's really hard because in the world, there's always someone better than you. And you got to accept that. And that's a really hard place to be, to know that there is someone better than you.
What if you're a gold medal winner in the Olympics?
Well, in about 4 years, are you still going to be a gold medal Olympic? In another 4 years, are you still going to be a gold medal Olympic? Right? So you can't always be on top. But does that mean you shouldn't go for it anyways? And I like to disagree. I think everyone should go for it. I think everyone should pour into themselves. What does that look like? Well, this is what it looks like. In the past, I would say 2 years, I've kind of lost a little bit of my identity on what I bring, who I am, what I enjoy. It got turned around a little bit, and I was hyper-fixated on certain things that didn't allow me to explore Joshua. And visiting yourself, especially coming into the new year, you spend a lot of time looking at 2022. What did that look like? Oh, it was a mess. Oh, it was great. It was fun. I missed out on this opportunity. Oh, I gained this one. And realizing that, okay, so I lost this part of me that I want to find again. And that path of self-discovery, super hippie-like, oh, how am I going to be happy? I think happiness then comes to a level of choice, which brings us to kind of a point of contention, because happiness is realizing that you can be happy with what you have right now. Chasing something that is what our heads as realizing as a fantasy, this podcast, growing it into a brand, expanding it, is not necessarily being content with what we have. We are striving for something more. And I think the idea of choosing happiness and being content with what you have, I like to think of the idea of being content with wanting to grow, being content with wanting to learn. I think that idea of, okay, I failed here. Oh, okay, I learned this here. That idea, I think, brings a lot more happiness and, for lack of a better word, dopamine to the brain. And chasing desires is good, because it'll teach you a lot quickly. So,
if you're hearing some noises, that would be the podcast dog.
The podcast dog.
He's getting close to the mic.
This is Choo Choo.
His name is Chewy. He's rubbing up against everything now, aren't you?
Beautiful lab German Shepherd.
Hey, Chewy, you want to go over there?
Go, buddy. Come here. Within your own personal skill set, Ethan, I know that you are very gifted in the mechanical world. You definitely have a lot of skills in fixing vehicles, building motorcycles. Just the idea of how your brain works can be really applied to the physical, mechanical world. And losing that piece, because I know a lot of that stems from passion projects or simply wanting to get stuff done and feeling accomplished from that. In this corporate world, I know you lose a lot of that. How can someone reattach themselves to their passions again in an effective way where you can feel that you're growing and creating a skill set, to break through that burnout stage?
Well, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is not forcing yourself to do it. You know, there's been times where I come home and I'm like, I want to work on this project, but I'm so, I don't have the energy, but I force myself to do it anyways, and I'm not having fun because I feel like I'm forcing myself to do it when I'm just, in reality, need a break. Definitely reattaching to it takes some time, but you begin to start to love your projects again once you're not diving into them because you feel like it's a chore. A lot of times after work, I just don't want to do anything. Just kind of want to come home, relax, play some video games with the boys.
Yeah.
Hop on Discord, PC gamer. Just give yourself time. There's lots of projects that I've kind of put off for a long time.
Right. And it's easy to need to decompress. Well, it's needed because the mind is working on all pistons. It's firing. It's going crazy, trying to, again, all that pressure that's placed on externally and internally kind of get mixed up, and then eventually things that need to be done or things you want to be done, that chore stage is really deadly because then everything starts to suffer from there. Your projects don't look as great. Your work may start to deplete. You might not get enough sleep, stop eating. There's a lot of things that's connected to finding a place of passion in where you work and what you do with your free time.
Well, Josh, I think we're out of time for today.
Yeah, I think we kind of really dived into what it looks like to try to balance work and balance your life. Because at the end of the day, it is your life, it is your choice, and you should be choosing yourself in all situations. And it's something we forget. I know a lot of people are in relationships, have families, gotta pay bills, but realigning how the brain is looking at these situations can be really helpful and beneficial to growing as a person. And reevaluating where you're struggling, you can probably turn that into a strength if you can grow and push through that. And, follow the fun because you will have infinitely more motivation. So, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode. We are the Corporate Burnouts. Love to hear what you have to say. This is going to be posted on pretty much all podcasts, YouTube, things like that. So love to hear what you guys have to say, what experiences you guys had in this situation, and even if you are working a job that you absolutely love, how did you make that happen for yourself? So thanks again. Bye.